Welcome to Tech Savvy. Thank you again for joining us today, and we've got a great guest. She's going to tell us a lot about the financial aid aspects of being at college and how much it can help you. We've had good episodes in the past. We've had enrollment specialist and enrollment center director, and we've had Kim Crockett here last time, and she told us all about what the services that we offer to students to help them be more successful in their career. Today we're going to have Kim Colton, who is the Assistant Financial Aid Director for the whole college. So we're fortunate to have her on our campus because we have direct contact with her. So that makes a big difference for our students and for those of us that don't know that much about financial aid. So Kim, we're so excited about you being here. Thank you for taking out your time on your busy schedule to join me.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you. And I want to make sure that we cover a lot of stuff today that potential students need to know, and even the students that are already with us and need to know what they need to do so that they won't miss out on the financial aid opportunities that are available for them. It's important that our goal at West Georgia Tech is to take care of getting all barriers possible out of the way for students. And financial aid usually is the biggest barrier to keep somebody from joining us. So today I want you to make sure that our viewers know all the things that they need to know about enrolling and having the financial aid backing and the importance of the deadlines that they have to meet in order to get that financial aid. So tell the viewers and me how long you've been at West Georgia Tech and your background and that prepared you for being in financial aid.
Well, I've been at West Georgia Tech for around 13 years.
Wow.
I've always been in the area of financial aid. I've just kind of progressed through the department. The last 3 years of my employment, I've been the Assistant Director of Financial Aid, here based at the LaGrange campus. And I found that it's a wonderful opportunity to assist students and their families, coming in with questions and concerns about going to school and being able to provide the funding to make it available, the opportunity that we have, at our college.
Everybody loves to get some money.
That's right. That's correct. I haven't had anybody deny or decline so far.
I don't imagine so. They are happy with it. Well, I know we have different funding sources, like we have the HOPE, and we have the Pell Grant, then we have loans, and then we have scholarships. All these things I want to get to in a few minutes, but I want to make sure that they understand how simple it is to go through the financial aid process. Okay. So can you touch on the steps and what all needs to be done to get your financial aid?
Well, the student would apply for admissions and they would complete the FAFSA application. The website is fafsa.ed.gov, and it's an online application that the student and their parent, if they're dependent, would complete with their prior year tax information. And the FAFSA initially, many years ago, was a lot more complicated than it is now.
A bunch of pages.
It was a bunch of pages. It was a paper application. It was something that students and their parents alike would dread each year when it was time to complete and renew. But the FAFSA has gotten a lot easier. It's online now with quick tips that are provided on the right-hand side as the student fills out the application. If they have any kind of questions or concern, they can click in the little box that gives them, just little basic tips to go along with the questions that are provided. And you can even transfer your information in directly from the IRS, so the tool having to pull out your tax information and look for each individual line, that's eliminated because you can directly import it. For most people, you can directly import it from the IRS right now.
That cuts out a lot of time and effort.
Probably takes you maybe about 15-20 minutes to get through it at the most. So it's a whole lot easier than it was previously to apply for financial aid. So once you're admitted, and you can do it around the same time you're applying for admissions or even before you do your admissions application, but we can't make a financial aid award to you until you're accepted into a program. We send out missing information letters after we get your FAFSA. Is there anything that you need to turn into the college? Sometimes you might get selected for what's called verification, and that's a review of what you've put on your FAFSA application, so we have to collect additional documents from you. So the basic step is to complete the FAFSA, and then if we need anything else from you, that's determined after we get your FAFSA application in to be able to review it.
What's an example of something that people forget to put in there, or cause make you have to do the verification process?
Well, verification can be random, or it can be for just general errors when you complete your FAFSA application. Sometimes people get the line for the taxes paid confused if they're not doing the IRS transfer and getting their tax information directly in from the IRS. They may put their refund amount there, but it's asking for the specific line off of the tax return. You wouldn't believe some people, not in anything saying against what they've done, but some people can make an error just like not putting the name as it is exactly on their Social Security card, because there's a match with the Social Security information. So if you've been called a nickname all of your life, you got to realize when you fill out that FAFSA application that it's matching up against the Social Security Administration records, so it's got to match exactly what's on the card. Some children may not know their parents correct date of birth or their Social Security number, so it's important that if you don't know that information, you get it directly from your parent and you don't try to maybe guess or estimate, because that'll cause a reject. Also, sometimes the students won't sign the application with the PIN number that they can get from the Department of Education, and it can't be processed without a signature. So those are some of the common errors that occur when people fill out the FAFSA
Those sound like difficult ones, but they're easy information to find.
Right.
And if they have their tax information already entered or have already paid their taxes for that year, the information just transfers over.
Right. If you do that IRS transfer, it's going to pull in directly. But even if you don't do the IRS transfer, if you're fall into a situation where you can't use it, you just have to make sure you give them the specific line that they're asking for off of your tax return. And if you're confused about what they're asking in regards to your tax information, all you have to do is click into that field and look at the tip that's provided for that question. It's going to lead you directly to the line off of your tax return. So it's a quick fix. It's nothing that cannot be repaired.
It's not too difficult. Well, I know when my children went through the process, it took forever to get it all done. But now I see students come in and they're able to sit at our kiosk and do them.
Right.
And then if they have any questions individually, then we can help them with that. We can't help them fill out the forms because of the information, that the confidential information. Is that correct? Or
well, if they have a question in regards to, they're trying to apply for the FAFSA application, they have a question to, what do I need to put here? Yes, they can ask, for general assistance like that. But what we don't do is normally sit out and, what's your name and type it in for them. We're not preparers in those regards, but we're readily able to assist if they have questions.
That would be almost like a tax preparer.
Right.
If you were filling out that, because you would help them. We don't want to get into that.
Right.
We want to make sure, especially because they're fixing to go to college, they need to be able to fill out those basic forms.
Right.
And they need to be computer literate. If not, we can help them with that too.
Correct. Correct.
But anyway, so we're filling out the FAFSA form. It goes in, and then it's selected for verification. They will get questions, emails, telephone calls, what?
They will get a letter in the mail with the required documents that they need to complete and return to the school. They'll also have a Banner web account as a student. Your tracking information, which is your requirements that you need to turn in, will always be populated inside your Banner web account, so you have access to see, what is missing and what is needed. But they do get correspondence from the school in regards to what they need to turn in. Mm-hmm. Also, when they initially fill out their FAFSA application, they'll get an email back after it's processed, and the email directly from FAFSA will say you've been selected for verification. So that's going to be your first contact, even if you don't have a school Banner web account yet, or if you haven't received a letter from the school. It'll let you know after your FAFSA's process whether or not you were selected for verification directly from the Department of Education too.
Well, it sounds like a whole lot of stuff to have to know, but then like you say, it's very simple, it's online, a lot of people have filled out the form, and they've had a lot of questions, and they've addressed them in this process. So, I think it makes it simpler.
Right.
It does. All right. Well, we've got everybody FAFSA'd, and then they've been approved. Is that what the next step is?
Okay, if we've got your FAFSA in and you've turned in all your documents in case you need documents. Some students may come in and you're very lucky and you don't need anything. We've got your FAFSA application in and we can award you directly from there. The next step would be that you would get an award letter in the mail explaining to you what you're eligible for, the maximum amount per terms. Your award letter is going to tell you the max amount, because if you come in, maybe take less hours, it will be reduced. But it just gives you a general idea of what financial aid funds you're eligible for. Now, the only funds that will not appear directly on your award letter would be like if you needed to apply for a student loan or request loan funds. We don't award that up front at West Georgia Tech. We require students to do a loan request fund to let us know that you want the loan funding. You may be, readily able to attend and cover your cost of attendance with grant funding such as Pell Grant and Hope Grant. So if you want loans, you have to do a digital request for that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so what you're saying then is sometimes if a student enrolls for 12 to 15 hours, Hope will pay for a portion, Pell will pay for a portion. There still might be some expenses that you are not covered.
Right, additional educational costs like transportation costs, expenses that come along with attending college outside of just your tuition and fees and books. If it's education related, then you might need additional funding.
Right.
And if you do, we offer Stafford loan funds at West Georgia Technical College. Now that is for all eligible majors such as diploma program and degree programs. There are certain certificate programs that we can't offer federal aid for due to the length.
Right.
But there are private loans that are available that you can apply for as well through Sallie Mae and Wells Fargo through the college.
And there's interest, but it's a low interest rate.
Well, with the Stafford loans, it's a very low interest rate. The private loans are credit based, so your interest rate may vary depending on your credit score. But we prefer students, if at all possible, and you need loan funding, to apply for the Stafford loans just because the interest rates are so much lower.
Right. And you don't have to pay back the interest or anything until after you're
enrolled, and you have a grace period of up to 6 months after your enrollment. Or if you drop below half time, you can go into repayment too if you're below half time for that 6 month period. But as long as you're enrolled in half-time status, you don't have to worry about repayment on your loans until after you graduate and you're done with your classes.
That is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Well, we need to take a little break here so we can take a deep breath.
Okay.
But I sure do appreciate you being here today, because you've got your wealth of knowledge is so valuable to me, to students, and to the public, because it's not something everybody wants to sit around and talk about. So you're giving us a really good opportunity to learn some valuable information.
I'm very, very glad to be here today, able to share it.
Thank you. And we'll be back in a few minutes to finish up with some more information, some valuable information about financial aid at West Georgia Tech. Thank you. Welcome back to Tech Savvy. We're fortunate enough today to have Kim Colton here, who is the Assistant Director of Financial Aid at West Georgia Technical College. And she's already covered a whole lot of valuable information about financial aid. And we both discussed that it's so important that everybody understand why we have to do the things we do in order to get that financial aid. I mean, it's not like the money just all of a sudden appears. Wouldn't that be nice? But Kim, we've talked about the process and how to get the financial aid, how to be awarded the financial aid. Apparently there are refunds involved. What's the story on a refund?
Well, let's say a student comes in and enrolls and they apply for financial aid, they complete their FAFSA, they've turned in any documents they've needed. Even if they want to do a loan, they've done a loan request form. At that point, once we review you for your financial aid eligibility and make an award, and you register for your courses, and your charges will, incur because of your registration fees and your tuition. Well, Hope's going to pay a large portion of your tuition. It's right around 71% now, a little bit over that, but 71 point It pays $62.57 per credit hour that you register.
Out of the $85 that we charge.
Out of the $85 that we charge. And then fees are around $296 per semester.
So Hope doesn't pay that.
Hope does not pay fees at all. It just pays a portion of your tuition. But let's say you have Pell Grant as well, and you're eligible for a certain amount of Pell per semester. That is applied towards the difference of your tuition and fees that Hope does not pay. And then you get a credit that you can use in the bookstore if you've applied, early enough for your financial aid to be processed. And if you bought your books and supplies as well. Whatever you have left over, the remaining funds are refunded to you, the student, for whatever additional educational costs you may have. And the students all receive a SunTrust prepaid card, and their refunds are loaded onto those cards. Now, refunds are normally around the 4th week in the semester when they're issued. They're issued out by our business office, and the funds are loaded directly onto your card. And it's just like a regular, like debit card where you can swipe at a grocery store, gas station for gas.
Are there restrictions on those funds?
No, well, they're supposed to be for your educational expenses, but there are a lot of different things that, count towards your educational expenses.
Well, gas,
right,
or childcare, or
different expenses. So
cosmetology kits.
Right. So once you get those funds, they're loaded onto your card, and you can, use that for your purchases that way. That's how we issue credit balances to the students. And there are lots of students that are able to enroll and have all of their tuition and fees paid, and then funds remaining, even if they just receive grant funds, such as, Pell. Most of our students with loans, depending upon what they borrow, because you can borrow, we encourage you to borrow conservatively, but if you need additional funds and you do apply for loans, then of course you would get that money refunded to you as well on your prepaid card. For whatever has not, whatever is not an institutional charge by the college, such as tuition and fees, and whatever you have not used toward book purchases, in our bookstore as well.
Right. Well, that, again, is taking away one of those major barriers, because that even helps you with the child care and the transportation costs that a lot of people say they can't go to school because of.
College without, right.
So that's amazing. And of course, the Pell is more set up for need-based.
Need-based assistance, correct.
So the Pell is set up, and I guess the funds come from the Department of Education, right?
Correct.
So that's why they need to know all your financial information.
Correct.
Tell me about there's a formula that
right,
they
it's the estimated family contribution, and it's what when you fill out your FAFSA, it's what the federal government has determined is the expected amount that your family would be able to contribute towards your educational costs. Now, the lower that number is, the better in terms of Pell Grant eligibility. But when you fill out your FAFSA and you see that number, you might say, well, I don't have $5,000 or $3,000. You have to understand that that's not saying that that's what you would owe West Georgia Technical College. It's just the amount that is used to determine how much financial aid we can award you.
Right.
And every student has a budget for cost of attendance. So your cost of attendance does not just include tuition charges, fees, books, and supplies. It also includes things such as transportation costs. So you would not necessarily use that number and say, well, my EFC says I'm supposed to have $10,000. I'm not going to be able to get financial aid. No, that's not true. Because even if your cost of attendance is a certain amount, we can award you unsubsidized loans funds as well, and the EFC is not even taken in consideration for that formula. So it doesn't mean that you won't be able to come to school, even if you can't get Pell Grant funding, because we offer funding through loans. And HOPE is not need-based assistance. HOPE is based on Georgia residency.
Right.
If you pursue a certificate or diploma program and you've been a Georgia resident, if you graduated from high school for at least 12 months, you have to be a Georgia resident if it was a Georgia high school. If it's an out-of-state high school, you have to be a Georgia resident for at least 24 months. But if you meet those requirements and just certain basic requirements such as, eligible citizenship, selective service requirements, then you could get the HOPE grant funding to pay for a large portion of your tuition costs for any certificate or diploma program. Now, if you're a degree-seeking student, you can get HOPE Scholarship. If you graduated from high school with the HOPE Scholarship, when you get HOPE Scholarship directly out of high school because of your grade point average.
It's 3.0?
It's a 3.0. However, if you're non-traditional student and you're not directly out of high school, you could earn Hope Scholarship by having a 3.0 grade point average at 30 semester hours. However, after 7 years of your high school graduation date, you would be ineligible for Hope Scholarship and associate degree programs. So Hope Grant for certificate and diplomas, Hope Scholarship for degree students still pays the same amount for tuition, $62.57 per credit hours. Doesn't cover books and supplies, or additional fees, but it's still a large portion of your tuition that it covers.
Takes a major bite out of it.
Right.
That's excellent. Well, this is a good opportunity to go into the Hope changes and what all's happened since I guess it was starting fall semester. The changes were effective in fall.
Correct. Hope Grant previously had a 2.0 grade point average requirement, and our regulations changed to require students to have a 3.0 grade point average to match the same requirements as the scholarships with a 3.0, which is technically a B average. For fall semester, that's been lowered to a 2.0 again.
And that's just for the grant,
for
not
the
for the
grant,
scholarship.
not for the scholarship, correct. So you can maintain Hope with a C grade point average, now instead of a B grade point average previously, and that pulls a lot of our students back in that may have previously gone to college and lost it because they didn't meet the 3.0 requirement, and it also helps students who are currently enrolled to be able to keep their funds longer because maybe they might have a semester. It's very easy to have a semester or so where their grade point average may have fallen down below that,
right.
But it gives them an opportunity to maintain their funds for a longer period of time now with that new lower GPA requirement.
That is a big deal.
Yes, it is.
Big deal.
It's one that we're very, very happy
to
about.
have. I know,
Right.
I know. And then the extra funding for the high demand jobs.
Right. We have new funding available now that started fall semester for our CDL, for our truck driving students. It's under the Strategic Workforce Development Grant. As long as they're enrolled in 9 or more credit hours and they meet the requirement for Hope funding, they can get an extra $1,000 per semester to go against their charges at our college. And CDL is a more expensive program, so that helps out a lot. Whereas a student may have been paying, just an estimate off the top of my head, maybe about $1,300 in extra fees. Now it's around $300. Won't quote me exactly on that, but it's a lot lower cost than it was previously.
The tuition is a lot more expensive because it's short and
Right.
and it's a very expensive program to offer. But then now with this additional $1,000, bottom line is all the fees, all the tuition, everything that's involved, there's only a little bit more than $300 that'll have to come out of pocket.
Right, out of pocket now. And that's a big advantage for the students, for a program that we need a lot of students enrolled in. So yes, we're very excited about that.
The demand, I read about it this morning, there is such a high demand for truck drivers.
Correct, yes.
It's a place to be. It definitely is. So down to the bottom most important thing that we need to cover today is the importance of deadlines.
Correct.
Tell me about, if I miss a deadline, what happens?
Well, if you miss a deadline, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean, no, I'm not going to come to school. However, it does mean that there will be a delay in your funding. We have our deadline set for spring semester at October the 31st. Gives you a couple of months before the semester starts for the financial aid office to have your FAFSA application in, your documents in if you need anything, and adequate time to process it so you have money available for tuition and fee payment deadline, which is December the 4th, and for you to have books and supplies in the bookstore. Now what happens is when you miss the deadline is that you fall behind in the process. You might not have money available to pay for tuition and fees, and you be in a situation where you have to pay for your tuition and fees.
So you have to come up with some money if you want to go to school.
To cover it, to hold your classes. And when you go to the bookstore, you might not have the money to purchase your books, out of pocket. So it's very important that you apply for financial aid by the financial aid deadline, just to give us adequate time to process your information and have it ready for you when you come to school.
Wait for your money. No, the money's waiting for you instead of you waiting for your money.
That's correct.
That's what
a
Lori
wonderful
said.
way to put it. That is a very wonderful way to put it.
The deadline you said is October the 31st to get your financial aid information in,
right,
correct?
For spring semester.
For spring semester that starts in January. That's two months. But now you've touched on the reason why you need that that grace period in between, because there could be some verification, there could be some mistakes on your FAFSA, there could be some documentation that you need to turn in.
Right.
There are a lot of things that have to happen, and the 2 months is your grace period to get it all in. Now, if you wait till after that point, then the later your money will come in.
Right.
And you'll have to. Well, we'll run out of time.
Okay.
We've had fun today.
Yes.
This is intense information, but it makes sense. It's a simple process. And the good news is we have you to call if we have any questions
Right.
about it. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I appreciate you taking out time of your valuable day to spend with us to enlighten our viewers.
Okay.
Thank you again for being here today at Tech Savvy, and we look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Don't forget, you can come see us on our website at www.westgatech.edu. And thank you again for joining us.